Great news as the president confirms next week's stimulus package will have in it stimulus checks. Nancy Pelosi, however, is not happy. She says this bill next week does not get to the root of the matter. Ironically, that's exactly what she said to her hairdresser last week. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE. Afternoons, LALATE starts every day at 3:30 with a check, then goes to hazard pay, then FPUC, and then finally rent. Thank you for joining LALATE Now, the net's most watched and fastest growing financial news channel, with nearly 3.5 hours of programming every day, 7 days a week. Big, exciting, great news out of the White House today, confirming what I've been reporting for over a week, that next week's second stimulus bill, introduced to the Senate by Republicans, valued at $500 billion, will have in it, yes, second stimulus checks. Thank goodness. The incredible great news was confirmed by who else but VP Mike Pence today during an interview in which he said yes, next week's bill will have second stimulus checks in it. And even more great news. He said no one wants to give second stimulus checks to Americans more than anyone else than the president of this country. So after weeks of haggling, debating, negotiating, we're almost potentially at the finish line. Pence's comments came in a day in which he was talking about a lot of other stuff. And so let me explain some of the other stuff right off the bat that got a lot of people confused. He was asked about the other great news about yesterday, the deal to balance the federal budget, which is also called a stopgap bill. And he said that balancing the budget bill, which has nothing to do with stimulus checks, won't have anything to do with stimulus checks because it shouldn't have anything to do with stimulus checks. And a lot of people heard that and thought, so does that mean we're not getting stimulus checks? No, you're just not getting stimulus checks tied up with a federal budget bill, which has nothing to do with stimulus checks. So let me get to the incredible great news. What's happening next week comes as a lot of wonderful things that, I could not even foreseen, but have been predicting, are actually coming to fruition. Over a week ago, this channel first reported exclusively that next week will be a critical week for stimulus debate. What's going to happen is that Republicans basically tired of the Temple of Doom, not really into bats and dinosaurs. I mean, they get a little tired after a while, have decided to do it their own way, do it my way, like that famous song. And so what they're going to be doing is introducing a bill to the Senate next week. And the bill is narrowly tailored. It's very thin. It's thinning out all the details, which, might have been what Nancy Pelosi's hairdresser said to her as well. The bill only has a finite number of items in it. One is your stimulus checks. The reason why the bill is only at $500 billion, despite the president's offer of $1.3 trillion a week ago, is because this is what people agree upon. The idea is not novel. The Purple Power has been tweeting it for over 2 to 3 weeks. We started with the call for standalone bills. Remember that? Standalone bill for stimulus check, standalone bill for FPUC. Well, the Republicans came up with another version after considering that as well. They said, you know what? We all agree upon about 4 things, so let's just do the 4 things and get that in and out really quickly, sort of like a fast food delivery of In-N-Out burgers. Really quick and really fast and not too greasy. I don't know about the grease analogy, but, there we go. It's going to include only stimulus checks, FPUC, and something for K to 12, which is called kindergarten to 12th grade, something to help the schools reopen, more money for them to modify their operations to allow students in the schools, and finally some more money for testing. This is incredibly great news. It's only $500 billion. The time frame, let me go over that right now. It'll be introduced next week. It'll be a new bill. It won't be anything you've seen before, like Nancy Pelosi's hairstyle. It'll be totally brand new, and it'll be introduced in a quick and fast way to get it done right away. These comments have been confirmed by Mark Meadows, Mitch McConnell, Steve Mnuchin, and today, Mike Pence on behalf of the president himself. So ultimately, if you don't believe the remarks, you have about 5 to 6 people not to believe. These are a lot of people repeating the same thing in a very short period of time. So they're all on book, contrary to what Chuck Schumer says. That caucus, which I don't like that word, caucus, that caucus is not very well aligned. Well, so far it looks very well aligned to me. The bill and its details, let me get to that right now. $1,200 stimulus check. $1,200 second stimulus check. Married couple, $2,400 second stimulus check. Eligibility, same as the first stimulus check. It's based upon your 2019 earnings. So if you made, $300,000 last year, you're not getting a stimulus check. If you didn't have an income last year, you are getting a stimulus check. As this channel first came to really big fruition, garnering an enormous amount of subscribers in a very short period of time, a record for YouTube, 200,000 subscribers in less than, 3 months. Now at, what are we at now? I don't even remember. But one of the first things that I really started covering majorly, that no one was covering, was will the second stimulus checks go to people on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, railroad benefits, and veterans benefits? No one was reporting for you. No one is taking you into consideration. And the initial comments of people on this channel was, we didn't get a check first time around because they just don't want to give us checks. Not true. What happened the first time was that they had a horrible provision in there that both Republicans and Democrats now in hindsight agree it was horrible. It said that we won't give a stimulus check to anyone who is an adult dependent. What's an adult dependent? It means someone who is on someone else's tax return as a dependent and is over 18 years of age. So, for example, if you're a father and you have a son, and you really don't have much going on in your life, you're retired from the Army, and you're a veteran, and you're just retired and you receive your VA benefits every month, you don't perhaps need to file your own individual tax return, so you appear on your son's tax return. Well, under the first stimulus package, you didn't get a stimulus check. It was a crazy rule, but your buddy across the street, who you served with as well, who decides to do his own tax return because he likes to do his tax returns himself, got a full stimulus check because he wasn't dependent on someone else's tax return. It doesn't make sense. Absolutely doesn't make sense. Just because you chose to do your tax returns a certain way. Well, this time around, you're getting a stimulus check. This is what's incredible, great news. What's also incredible, great news is that the stimulus check will come to you in a very, very quick way after approval. Now, we know when and how it'll come to you and how fast. We just don't know the start time. Let me explain what's going on. So, if you're on benefits, it's going to be routed to you in the manner in which you receive your benefits check. So you receive your benefits by direct deposit, it'll come by direct deposit. If you receive it by ACH, come by ACH. You receive it by debit card, comes by debit card. Receive it by paper check, this will come by paper check as well. There's one question I get a lot, and I don't know the answer because no one has ever given us the answer, is what if you're a dependent, but you're also on benefits? So, for example, I had one really nice female viewer, ask me the other day, says, my mom, she's on Social Security, but she's also a dependent on my tax return. Will she get her stimulus check or will I get it for her? I don't know the answer. I really don't know the answer. But if you, if you find something that gives guidance, certainly drop in the comments, because I have never heard the answer to this question from IRS. Ultimately, IRS is the one that would give you the answer, or Treasury, Steve Mnuchin. We've never had that answer. So let's get back to the details. Child support, not taken out for the Democrat plan. Republicans would take it out. We don't know what's going to happen next week. And finally, the issue of minor dependents and adult dependents. Republicans have in the past floated $500 for these dependents for the second stimulus check. We don't know if they're going to come in at $1,200 or $500. An additional question I got in the last 2 days, and I love this question. It shows that people are really on the ball. I love your questions when I hear ones like this. Will we be getting a third stimulus check? Highly likely, yes. Steve Mnuchin has said that a third stimulus check is likely possible if the economy warrants it and the situation continues. That's the first one. Second, the president has always said that he wants to give more stimulus checks. Fourth, It depends on who becomes president. This president says he wants to give you more stimulus checks. His Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, wants to give you more stimulus checks. But Joe Biden yesterday said, hey, if he's elected, you'll see stimulus checks in January as well. So when would the third stimulus check be? It would likely not be before the election. That's like really incredible wishful thinking. Would it be before Christmas? Hard to say. Really hard to say at the moment. Finally, I always want to throw in some hilarious bits. Larry Kudlow, who is simply, out to left field. I mean, he's not even in left field. He's sort of outside the stadium at this point. Said, America could survive without any stimulus package relief. My response is, America could survive with any Larry Kudlow. Let's go to 2021 without hearing from Larry Kudlow. That would be really great. I mean, we can survive without Larry Kudlow. But back to Mike Pence. Hallelujah. Mike Pence says now we can focus on getting another relief bill and we can continue on doing that in good faith, he said this morning. Why is this so important? I mean, I detailed this last night on Evenings LALATE. This is a bombshell. This truly was absolutely one of the most incredibly great news we had seen all week. That Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin met yesterday privately outside of cameras without telling anyone they're going to meet, without telling them after anyone that they had met. She didn't issue a press release, claiming whatever his name is again. They met and they made an agreement that the stopgap, the budget for the government, which was due by September 30th, balancing the budget was required to be done by both houses of Congress, and by September 30th, in only a 15-week time, they had to do this enormous bill. There was a couple of concerns. One, that it was going to take a lot of time. Two, that they were going to tie it up to COVID-19 stimulus and that say, hey, you know what, we're not going to do it unless you give this to me for stimulus. There was that concern. The third concern was that they were just simply not going to agree upon anything and shut the government down and then, erode the economy and then, hey, congratulations, America's entirely hopeless. There was all that worry. Well, the great news is it was all done away last night. The agreement on the federal budget is so incredible, as Mike Pence confirmed again this morning, confirming exactly what I said yesterday, which is, one, the government will stay open, of course. Two, we can now focus all next 15 days on stimulus relief. It's not going to take 15 days, so don't drop in the comments. 15 days. We can just focus on stimulus relief right now. Congress comes back in a session next week. And three, that the federal budget was not going to be somehow intertwined with stimulus relief in a way in which you wouldn't get stimulus checks unless, you gave a federal building, unless you did this with the federal budget. No one wanted that, and so it's not happening. Congratulations. This was really great news. Government funding would have lapsed had this not have been approved. Mike Pence's comments explained that the stalemate will be eradicated with an introduction of a bill next week. First of all, Pence confirmed the $500 billion amount. That's the first thing. Second, he confirmed the elements of the bill. Third, he said it won't include state and local, as I've been reporting as well. That will be in the next stimulus package, which could come later this month, early in October, and may include hazard pay. And fourth, he said that without a doubt, this stimulus bill to be introduced next week will have stimulus checks in it. Nobody, quote, nobody wants to give direct payments, which is stimulus checks, to American families more than Donald Trump again. This is incredibly great news. Senate Republicans are now set to take up what's called this narrow plan next week. Democrats have initially said maybe they won't support it. Economically, a lot of people now see the timing of the situation. Ultimately, it's very important to understand that certainly if you are a presidential candidate and you're sending out stimulus checks give you a 3% jump in the polls. They just do. We saw that in the first stimulus checks that went out. When they went out, the president got a 3% jump in the polls, and it would likely happen again. But the real evidence is that the American comeback is underway, said Pence, but what's really great news is that he didn't say because the economy is improving, we're not giving stimulus. He said we are giving stimulus, we are giving unemployment benefits. As you see this incredibly great news, which I really can't emphasize how great it is, it's so wonderful in another regard. And that is what I was reporting, nearly 2 months ago, that I was always worried that people like a Mitch McConnell would say, oh, the economy's getting better. Here's these new numbers out today. We don't need stimulus. In my Blaine 66 voice. How did I just turn into Blaine 66 all of a sudden? That was always my worry, that Republicans would grab on to good economic numbers or better economic numbers to say, oh, these are sort of good. Oh, sorry, we don't need to give you stimulus checks anymore. Sorry. And you remember what I actually said a month ago today? I said I'm very worried when the August job numbers comes out that Republicans will say, oh, that August job number is really good. I mean, it's so wonderful. You don't need stimulus checks. Well, the great news is that no one did that today. Thank goodness. No Republican came out and said, we're not giving you stimulus checks because the job numbers was good. We're not doing this because that is good. And understand, you and I understand that those numbers, economic numbers that came out today are not particularly that good, and they're not particularly good either. But historically, only 2 months ago, people like Mitch McConnell would take economic numbers and construe them in a way in which it would support their allegation that you don't need stimulus. What are those economic numbers? Well, there was a big job gain in retail today, 240,000 new positions in the month of August. Professional business services rose 197,000. Leisure and hospitality saw a gain of 174,000. Education and health gained 147,000. Transportation 78,000. Financial activity 36,000, and wholesale trade was up 14,000. The unemployment rate for African Americans fell 1.6% to 13%, while the rate for Asians declined 10.7%. And the Hispanic level for unemployment dropped 2.4% to 10.5. Average earnings rose about 4.7%. These are generally good economic numbers, but they're not robust economic numbers. Let's understand that this is what one analyst told CNBC this morning. Nevertheless, the August data illustrates that despite earlier surges in virus cases, the recovery continues to plow on. The question is, how strong is the recovery? These job numbers reflect a big win for American workers and are surprising considering the unemployment insurance claims have been barely budging in recent weeks. More about that in a second. Unemployment breaking the 10% barrier so decisively is a big psychological level as well, says Robert Frick, a corporate economist at Navy Federal Credit Union. What's important to understand is that when we look at economic data, when we look at stimulus, we're looking at August numbers. August was never supposed to be a month in which Americans' economy would not rebound. We always thought the economy would get better in America during the summer months. When the pandemic first hit, we didn't think we would see this upsurge of cases in June and July that would cause a further lockdown in states like California. We never thought that was going to happen. We always thought that the first round of stimulus would cover us through July, and that we would need another round of stimulus because we thought that the fall months after the big holiday coming up, the 3-day weekend, would be very severe. We always thought that the economic numbers would be very severe in the fall. And that's why everyone has to be very guarded. And that's additionally why Mike Pence's comments are so good today. That it shows that Republicans are not just simply grabbing onto, I don't know what you would call it. I mean, it would basically be like a rose-colored glasses analogy, that you see something and suddenly it's incredibly wonderful. And it really isn't. The unemployment numbers that come out every Thursday are what I really look upon. Someone tweeted me earlier today. I appreciate all your tweets. Keep them coming. And he asked me about the jobs number, which came out today. August's jobs numbers rose. The U.S. economy added 1.37 million new jobs. It was ahead of the estimate of 1.3. Unemployment rate fell to 8.4 from 10.2, the lowest since COVID-19 hit in March. They thought it was going to drop to 9.8. There's a strong reaction and a strong growth factor. Now, the reason why you have to be very guarded about these numbers is that it takes into consideration anyone that's just taking a temporary job. You know, if you had a permanent job when COVID hit and then you got laid off and now you took a temp job, then under this scenario, under this economic data number, when it says unemployment rate dropped from 10.2 to 8.4, it would encompass people who took temp jobs, whose jobs that may not be there in a month from now. Or it may be, you know, part-time jobs, you know, jobs that only pay $10 20 hours a week instead of a full work schedule. When you look at this number, it takes into all types of employment. So is it a robust enough number? No, the number lacks a lot of metrics. The other thing you have to take in consideration is, are more people going on unemployment that week? And compared to this number, which is looking at what happened a month ago. So the new jobless claims, which means how many people newly became unemployed just this last week, was released yesterday, and that was for the second time falling under 1 million since the pandemic started. It was incredible improvement. It was about 200,000 improvement. The question is whether it's sustainable. And as we start into the fall months and then winter months, and we're coming off a 3-day weekend where there always is a concern of new COVID-19 cases, the concern is how long this economic data will survive. As you need to sit here, you need to wonder about, will I be getting multiple stimulus checks? How soon will I get those checks? When will I see other things like unemployment assistance and hazard pay? When will I see other things like FPUC? It's important to understand that there's a lot of instruments out there. As the stimulus checks would land in your bank account 10 days after it becomes law. So you need to look at the calendar and mark and watch the path of what happens next week. You got to stay with me because there's really a lot of incorrect information out there. And you need to follow what's happening in the Senate. Then it goes to the House, and then it goes to the President. The minute the President signs anything as a law, you would count 10 days after that, and as much as 13 days, because some banks take a little bit of time to route a direct deposit. Some banks do it overnight. 13 days to 10 days when the president signs it into law. Finally, if you receive your payments by paper check or the IRS doesn't have anything set up for direct deposit, then it would also be about 13 days plus maybe about another additional week. Finally, non-filer filings, which I have not done that much. I probably have to do it quite soon. You really need to do a non-filer filing if you've ever considered any of the situations which I've talked about on this channel. And if you are uncertain about it, don't worry, because there's nothing wrong about doing a non-filer filing. It's just an extra layer of protection. Boy, Afternoons LALATE is really ramping up with a lot of coverage, so I hope you stay with me. Coming up right after this video is a special report and more about hazard pay that talks about what could be happening in the coming weeks. Next, after that, at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, is our FPUC PUA LWA video. I know you have a lot of questions on that. And finally, rent. As always, stay informed, stay motivated, and do me a couple favors. First, go to the front channel and hit the subscribe and alert button. If you're on the comments of this channel and you're posting a comment and you don't see a little red button next to you, you haven't been subscribed. It's important to subscribe. That way, when I see a comment from you, I know you're part of this community. And I respond first to comments by subscribers before non-subscribers. We're trying to reach 250,000 subscribers in the next couple of days. And boy, no one will have ever done that in the history of YouTube. We are already the first to reach 100,000 subscribers in such an incredible record time, 200,000 subscribers in another record time. We've only started since April 25th. That's how new this channel is. No one has ever done this. Thank you for joining me along this journey. And also like this video. It helps the algorithm, which was killing us yesterday. Oh my God, it's like that mattress commercial in California. You're killing me, Larry. The algorithm was really banging us up bad, like a bad Mike Tyson Evander Holyfield fight. I mean, it was just killing us. So like the video because it helps. That's that thumb under the video. Hit it. And coming up next is hazard pay. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay available.